Hey Per, hey Michael, how are you guys today?
Hello.
Pretty good, pretty good.
So, Michael, we got to know each other a couple of years ago at the conference, and I really liked your being like so straightforward with things that needs to be done in automotive when it comes to software and development here. But who are you for those who might not know who Michael is?
Oh, thank you. The title of my current role is I'm a technical director for everything software-defined vehicles. So I work a lot with automotive companies, sometimes more in an advisory role, in a consulting role, but also what I enjoy also a lot, sometimes also hands-on in the implementation. My background is I'm a developer from the web and cloud world, but for the last 7, 8 years, I spent only in automotive. And my goal is to bring modern software development to the automotive world. Still stuff to be done. We also achieved some things, but still stuff to be done. Yeah, that's me.
Cool. So you made an automotive version of this classic test pyramid. So for maybe there are some guys that don't know what the test pyramid is and why is an automotive version of it needed? Because you wrote this nice post on Medium that I really enjoyed. Try to explain testing,
Right.
what should be doing where and what's the purpose with it.
Yeah. I mean, on a high level, right? Test automation, test strategy. All the companies say, how do we get our software development more efficient? Because if you just look at the development costs, software development becomes a key factor. And having test automation and a proper testing strategy in place is one of the key factors to make software development efficient in automotive. Full stop. Writing lines of code that do something was never the problem. It's about the integration, it's about the testing, it's about the compliance, and so on and so on. So this is also why I think lots of project I was involved into, like, always had to do something with testing. And I mean, I always look, if I have a problem in embedded in automotive, I always think like, how do you solve it in the web and the cloud world? And I mean, there's this metaphor from Mike Cohen established that your test, if you look at all the tests you have, should look like a pyramid. On the bottom, you should have lots of unit tests that are very fast, very easy to execute. Then you have, integration tests in the middle, fewer of them, because they're slower, they're more heavy to maintain. And the functional test or the manual test should be very slow, right? And obviously, it's a metaphor. It's not like a one-to-one test strategy. And in all the projects, I was like, how does our test pyramid look like? And then people always like, oh, automotive, it's so much more complex, right? Because we have more environments. I was like, okay, so what environments do you have? Or we have to look at from way more errors, like, because it needs to be real time. And so I was like, okay, so what classes of errors do you look for? And I think the last bit always people say is like, we will always have manual testing. I was like, okay, yeah, fair. At the end, you always want to try something manually. How much is good? How much is too much? And how little is good? And so because the test pyramid is so easy to understand for people involved in software development, it's such a good trigger for discussion, right? Because people always say, oh, it's not that easy. Okay, but then let's talk about it. Does it make sense?
Yeah, definitely. And that you actually trying to think, why do I want to do this in this stage of the project? Else it just gets automatically you're doing things that you usually done. And also our experience is mine and Pal. Sometimes when you're talking to automotive people, they're looking at the car is naturally the holy grail because that's what's being produced in the factories and what people want, and that makes money for the OEMs. But when you're talking about like creating something in a virtual environment, it always needs to be the perfect copy. So it's always thinking of like, okay, the car, and then I want the digital twin needs to be one-to-one comparison with the physical thing. Might be that you want that at some stages for testing some stuff, but you can do so much more and fixing things with integrating things earlier, we'd say. And that's why I think, yes, everybody's talking about this shift left, but What's your belief? Why is this shift left challenging in automotive?
When people say shift left in automotive, they usually mean testing, right? Usually. But shift left can do more stuff. You can do shift left with compliance. You can do shift left with security and so on. So just highlighting that. But for now, we just focus on testing. But I mean, shift left means do something earlier. Earlier, when you think about the value chain of software development for a car, you usually have local environments and virtual environments and physical environment. It means let's push stuff to earlier stages. And I mean, there are multiple aspects then of benefits for this. First of all, you focus on testing much more early in the project, right? If you say, I want to find lots of bugs in unit testing, you focus on writing unit tests from the first day on. You invest more in automation. And what people underestimate most of the time is you find just more bugs earlier and developers get feedback earlier, so they don't have to do the context switching. Pei, it looks like you want to add something to this.
Yeah, no, I'm sitting and thinking about what needs to be left shifted, and I think one of the major problems is that it's very siloed. Things happen in silos, and things come together at a really late stage. So for me, it is much about kind of bringing the late integration earlier. And that can be done by reorgs, and it can be done with virtualization, by having infrastructure as code. And of course, the big thing is to be able to test things from a more holistic perspective, doing end to end. Especially now that when you're going from domain architectures to more complex zonal architecture, where one team's functionality is spread out on multiple nodes, which might not have been the case in the good old days, where you have a team where responsible one node, and then you have ins and outs, and then you kind of a little bit self-contained. But now things are smeared out as well.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I'm looking for that one as well. With automotive, what you do always have, you have always the suggestions how to structure things in the first layer, because it's just different physical components, right? Mm-hmm. You can't talk this away. And obviously this comes with a downside, because you have functionality, spread across different physical components. Yeah. But no matter how you cut it, you always have to make up for the other perspective, right?
Yes.
Yeah. But it's also fun to hear you talk actually about developer experience. And of course, many people are just seeing, okay, shift left, what does it bring us? Yeah, it's more like, okay, I can push out my cars easier, and it's more features for the end clients. But it's also about looking inside, that you can get developers more intrigued to do work, and you don't need to wait weeks or whatever it takes to get feedback on the code. And especially when there's many people pushing in code to a repository, and then something doesn't work and you have no idea why it doesn't work. But as a developer, and now I haven't been developing for quite a few years, but still, if you're trying something out, you want to know immediately, right, if it works or not.
And I guess that's what lots of people might really underestimate, the cost of late feedback, right? Because yes. I mean, what we're doing is very complex inherently. We can't talk it away. No. But if we have the feedback late, or we have bigger batches and integration steps, the cognitive load, the context switching for the developers, I get it. It's hard to put your finger on it, like how much did that cost, right? Mm. But I guess people underestimate the accidental complexity and the accidental cost that brings. And I mean, let's also be fair. The word developer experience has been much more prominent in the last years than it has been before in the decade.
Yes.
But I'm always like, so when we speak about developer experience, do we speak about how the developers work right now, or how we want them to work in 5 years? Because likely nobody exactly knows this. And when I then say, okay, let's at least align on how should the developer experience look like, what should be our sensible defaults, what should be our way of working. The automotive industry is notoriously bad in aligning on this. Just writing down what are our principles, right? still good to have the discussion.
But maybe feedback is something that we can all agree on, that yes, feedback is a big part of developer experience.
Yes.
Fast feedback. We need that now. We need that going forward as well. The automotive industry might be one of the worst industries to get fast feedback.
It's the most complex consumer product on this planet.
Yes.
It can kill people. It must be. I get that. But on the other hand, also when you think about developer experience, for me as a developer, it's so much more rewarding to make a machine do what I want and do fancy stuff than to build a cloud-based payment service, right? I find it very more fulfilling. And this is why if we get the developer experience right, if we get the automation right, I think automotive industry can be a very attractive place for young developers to go to.
Yes. Maybe you were talking about what's the definition of what is left shifting, and maybe we can also do a left shifting of the org chart where developers can do more. It's like traditionally there's developers, and then now I'm exaggerating and going back a few years, but then developers, they develop things, they throw it over the fence, and then there's testers, and then the testers are reliant on a hardware rig. So they need a system team in order to maintain and build the hardware test rig. And then you get these super long feedback cycles. And then there's something wrong with the rig, and then you can't test for a week. I think we can really move this so development teams can do so much more themselves.
And you wrote about this as well, I think, in a post, Michael, and just to elaborate on that, because creating new types of environments doesn't really do the left shifting. It's more to it, right? It's not just bringing tech there.
And yeah, that's a good point. Because most of the time when people speak about, we need to shift left, one of the big areas or uncharted territories is virtual integration testing. And I know that Remotive, that's one of your focus areas as well, right? And I guess we are not nearly done there. However, if you have your, 5-6 different types of environments, and you create a new one, and you're writing new tests for that one, well, guess what? More tests to write, more tests to maintain, more bugs to be found, right? So just creating an additional environment is not doing the shift left.
No.
So the shift left is an activity, a process, a way of working.
Yes.
And we can do more technical stuff there that is better. We need to first overcome the organizational silo. And no matter how you cut it, if you cut it into environments types or if you cut it into functionality, you will have to make up for one-way communication. And you need to create an incentive, because the shift left is not happening by itself. If we have a black screen on an HMI in a test car, well, somebody will do the root cause analysis. Let's just assume it could be found with a unit test. Who is the person in the organization that tells them now, the team, you should really write a unit test for this month? Because they are busy with the next feature. And the unit test, and they are busy with the next version. Right?
Yes. Yeah, there's a lot of stress in general in the industry. I just want to comment on this with yet another environment, because I fully agree with you, because and we sometimes see this, that the push to do shift left. Yes, then we need virtual environment, but then they just, this is just a parallel thing that runs in parallel with what they're already doing, and then that just adds complexity, because then you get something else that you don't want, that because you're super stressed with just getting the flow through the normal pipeline going. So but then to get this really working, then you need some prerequisites, like you need infrastructure as code. You need a vehicle described in code, and with all the nodes and the entire topology. You need to be able to share things and put things in the same pipeline, using the same frameworks, using the same tests. and creating this a smooth journey, not yet another one. Being able to run use the same test frameworks, the same test suites throughout, from early stage virtual environments all the way to HIL rigs and potentially even in wheel rigs, because that's when you get things left shifted, because then you get reuse, and it's not yet another environment. It's just a earlier version of the environment.
Yeah.
Sounds good. By the way, you have this like different issues, example classification, so more like where to test what and what's the reasoning behind it. Could you share a bit more? Don't need to go into details, but what's your thinking there? With you have different systems, I'm finding these issues here and then continuing.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at an ECU project or a larger car project, the environments are always very similar, right? You have a local environment, you have 1, 2, 3 different virtual environments, small bench, big bench, car in the cage, car on a test track, right? And I think it should be dead obvious if you find a bug, if this was the right place to find the bug, right? It should be dead obvious if it's I don't know, if it's a logical error because of a corner case in an algorithm, that should be a unit test, right? If it's a real-time issue because of the traffic on a CAN bus, that should be a test bench, right? I can't do this really in a virtual environment. But if people draw up the value stream, right, it should be very obvious at what place we should find what bugs. And if we are late, then we have that's what shows us the potential for the shift left. Because I fully agree, you can't get rid of entirely of the environments. But I think and I'm coming back to this virtual integration environment, even without having modeled a full virtual car, I think contract testing between ECUs that talk to each other, having use cases, user flows on this level, right? That is fully not utilized. Data interpretation errors. Oh, I thought this integer would mean this rather than that.
Yes.
And also what people underestimate, if I need to mock physical errors, that's very hard to do in test benches. Let's just assume the sensor is dirty and spits out dirty data. That's much easier to mock in a virtual environment, right? So I think there are lots of cases where we can make deliberate use of these environments and what they're capable to do.
Would think so as well. But how could the automotive players then start with this journey and shift left and taking ownership and doing the right testing at the right level?
Yeah, and can I just because I just want to add to that question, because everyone says the same thing, everyone wants the same thing, more or less, but I think that it's about the execution, and so we get just because it's not a problem that the industry doesn't know or doesn't want to change, but what are the tangible things they can do to move to speed up? Because no one wants to left shift. They want to develop things fast with high quality with happy developers.
But okay, nobody wants to left shift because it's the instrument, right? But people want fast feedback, reduce the time to market, have just less cost, in the development, and I guess shift left is one of the instruments, right?
Yeah.
And you also referred earlier, maybe a different organizational setup might be good in certain cases. I always think there's no perfect one. Eventually, you always end up with something that's more or less an implicit matrix organization. But if you are very deliberate why you do this first primary cut, either on the steps in the value chain or on a functional base, then you can be very deliberate how to make up of the downside of that as well, right? Also, what I think, the company I work for, Thoughtworks, every time we hire a new person, we send them to something called Thoughtworks University, that they have to do a consulting project end to end. They have classroom sessions. They learn our sensible defaults. I guess automotive companies are underutilizing it also, because even if you don't do system testing in your primary role later on, having done it once end to end, the full life cycle at least once on a project basis, I guess that's the type of knowledge you want to spread across the company a lot. Let's see.
Yeah, to understand the others and what their headaches are, because then you're like, I guess the discussions and communication between people will be easier then as well, because then I know, okay, if I'm shipping this to the next guy, then what is he or she doing with it? Okay, then I know what it is, and how can we help each other to.
Also, if you want to establish new practices, let's assume you don't do tester and development right now, but you want to do this. Well, every person that joins the company learns how to use this tool, TDD, and then they at least are aware of this content. Much likelier you then is able to establish that as a culture, as a mindset, rather than deciding on an architect's level in some committee that this might be a practice you want to establish, right?
Yeah.
But it's something about what can we do right now, right?
Yeah.
I guess what worked for me the most is always to make the problem obvious. So I guess if people really think, oh, this is an interesting topic, I would suggest go out tomorrow on Monday and find out how your test pyramid, your actual test pyramid right now looks like. And don't get trapped by, oh, this is not my organizational unit, this is somebody else.
No.
Like just writing down what the value stream is from somebody changed their line of code to it ends up in a test fleet or in a production car. Everybody should be able to do this. Then finding out, well, what kind of bugs and how many of those do we find where? That might be tricky because stuff gets copied over from one bug tracker to another. And we don't want to do accounting. We just want to have a rather confident sketch. This is how our pyramid looks like, and then bring it in front of people and say, does this look good? What does good even look like? And I guess if you do that, that's very low boundary. That's very, it's lead work, but it doesn't require tons of investment. That starts the right conversation.
I agree, but there's this challenge in the industry that really good people that would like to do this and who would be doing this in a good way are super busy cramming out
sure
the new versions, then fixing bugs, and so there's this stress in the industry that kind of makes it hard for them to change.
I get it, and it's both, right? When I speak to people or teams who are in the process of developing the next version, they're always like, oh, I don't have time for this because there's an SOP. Guess what? After this SOP comes the next SOP.
Yes, right? There's always an SOP.
But on the other hand, also, I mean, it's typically an industry where I see meetings with 20 people for 3 hours, and most of the people don't say a single thing. I don't ask for permission.
Yes.
Ask for forgiveness. Carve out 2 hours here, 2 hours there. Do the right thing. If you really believe in this and people trust you, then just go ahead and do it. I don't think we can wait, because then it won't happen.
Really like that.
Yeah. So good talk with you guys. Do you have any final words for our chat?
Not right now. For everybody who's watching this, if you think this is interesting, reach out to Emil, Per, or me to talk further about this. I don't think we're nearly done with this yet, and I would hear more situations and war stories from the real life.
Yeah, and we are here to get stuff done, so that's our motto. So let's continue. Thanks for today, guys.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.